What's up, everybody, and welcome to another video today with my BFF, Cy Montgomery. And so today I'm going to perform just a little interview, just have fun and talk about cephalopods and stuff. So, Cy, how you doing?
Oh, it's so great to be here with you, Gary. We haven't seen each other for such a long time.
I know, it's been pretty long. How long has it been? Probably maybe a few months, you think, huh?
Oh, I think more than that.
Probably.
Yeah, because the last time we saw you, which octopus did you see? Was it Cy?
I think it was still Cy. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah, she was a great octopus, and I loved going around the aquarium hearing people say, "Oh, Cy is so beautiful." Yeah. But it was such a pleasure to introduce you to her.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic seeing Cy, because my last video I did mention about seeing Cy the octopus, and I've studied these things for 3 years, not 3 years, since I was 3. So it's been about 14 years now since I'm studying them, but before that I've never been able to interact with an octopus. And that day when you invited me behind the scenes and my parents to see that octopus, I swear I just cried inside. It was absolutely amazing seeing that octopus, and then actually being able to touch it and let Cy the octopus feel me. It was like seeing a long lost friend, you know. It was so fantastic being able to touch an octopus and look at it one-on-one. It was absolutely incredible.
It was destiny, don't you think?
Yes, it was. It was. It was like something magical. It was so not magical. Magical just appeared. It was so awesome.
It really is like that. Having somebody who's so different from us, who recognizes you, looks in your face, recognizes you as an individual. It's kind of amazing they can even find our face, because their faces are so different. I mean, with their mouth is in their armpits, and you know, the part that everyone else thinks is the head is, as you know, and members of the nation know, is not even their head. That's their mantle. Yeah. It's like their thorax in another animal. And having someone that different still be able to recognize you as an individual and to feel their curiosity about you as strong as your own curiosity about them.
Exactly. It's so incredible. And I had a conversation with my grandpa. I saw him over the weekend, and he's been watching some of my videos, and I think he got this from one of my videos. He's like, you know, octopuses are animals that don't want to eat you or kill you or anything. They're just really curious. Like, imagine if we were an octopus and we saw somebody, our first reaction would be just like charge and just full violence at them. You want to learn them first before you get to any of that. And that's all octopuses are doing. And they don't want to kill you or anything. They're like us. They're just in a different form.
Yeah, and each one is so individual too.
Yeah, it is. Its own personality.
Cy was a very outgoing octopus, but right now we have at the aquarium. The aquarium, of course, is closed because of COVID-19, but I got to go there the day before it was closed and see my friend Rudy. And Rudy is a female. She's extremely interactive and lovely, but in the tank in back of hers is a little male. And his name is Edmund, and he's so shy he won't come out at all. You know, he's kind of like the one that they named at the Seattle Aquarium. They had one named Emily Dickinson because she never came out from behind the filter, and they eventually just let her go in the sound, which of course we can't do because we don't have the Pacific in our backyard.
Yeah.
But I just hope that Rudy hangs in there, because I'd love to see Rudy again when this whole thing is over.
Yeah, that's awesome though that you get the opportunity to say, yeah, I'm going to go to an aquarium and see an octopus. It's very rare for people to say that. I wish I could do that, but that someday in the future that will definitely be me. But it's so awesome that you're able to say that. It's so cool, because probably not much people just think that these animals aren't that important, or well, mostly just important, but they're just truly magnificent animals. They're literally like dogs. They're companions. You just love them so much, and they're kind of like they're there for you, but you don't know it. But it's so incredible to say that. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I think the way that humans in general miss so much of what's true about the world by looking at animals as if they're all the same or as if they're automatons. That's why I think that your program, your work, the work of OctoNation, all the people in the nation who go out and witness to the other people, it really expands our compassion. It
It
expands
does.
our appreciation for the whole living world, don't you think?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. It's just so many people are isolated in one place that they don't get the opportunity to go out and actually see what the world is like without technology, cities, cars, or anything. Actually be like what it was millions of years ago, just animals and nature.
And of course, we evolved in that situation. It's only recently in our evolution that we're surrounded by all of these technological trappings. So I think we do have it in us
Yeah.
somewhere, to pay attention to and respect and revere the natural world, because it is our world. But we've
Yeah.
become disconnected, and that's dangerous. When you get that disconnection, that's when you start getting people just poisoning the earth and the water and the soil, and over exploiting all of its resources. But if we can
Exactly.
establish that connection, I think then we've begun to heal not just the earth, but our own souls, which evolved in concert with all the other living creatures around us.
Exactly. I feel the same way. My dad and I, we sometimes go hiking. We used to go hiking a lot, but unfortunately we don't go much anymore. But every time when we go out with nature, it's just your soul opens up, and it's the most remarkable feeling to have. Instead of being at home and trapped in a house, doing work for school and stuff, but going out with nature is just so different. You feel relaxed. You feel more with the animals in nature and really able to get that true oxygen that you needed. And it's truly remarkable what Mother Nature and outdoors can do to you.
Yeah, I'm hoping that during this whole COVID-19 shelter in place, that some people do find an opportunity to go outside in the woods that might be surrounding their houses. I realize that a lot of people are living in cities, but for me, I can just walk out of our home in New Hampshire and be in the woods and listen to the different birds' voices and know which animal is calling. And it's just great to see the whole world wake up right now in the
Yeah,
spring.
exactly. My
So
my
yeah,
dad
the plants every day. There's new plants out that weren't there before. It's
yeah.
just like bam, 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 bam. So much is going on so quickly.
Yeah, everything's now able to take that huge breath that they needed for years. Also, when my dad and I, when we just go outside in the back of our house, we've been noticing a lot more birds of prey coming out. We've seen a lot more hawks, a lot more eagles. We've seen some birds and animals that we have never really seen before starting to come out, and it's really remarkable what actually this disease is doing. It's affecting a lot of us, but it's giving a pro for nature to really come out and breathe.
Yeah, and I think that it gives us a chance to see what the benefits are, not when we're all sick and frightened, but when we're not all dumping more and more pollution and noise into the world.
Yeah,
And it benefits octopuses too. And not only does it benefit them because less production of stuff means less pollution in the water, but noise in the ocean.
exactly. Yes.
I was so surprised learning about the amount of noise that animals have to put up with
Yeah,
in the ocean. And octopuses actually can have, their ability to detect. They don't have ears, of course, but they can detect vibration,
yeah,
and this can be destroyed by loud noises in the ocean. And it, of course, deafens and kills whales and dolphins, and even snapping shrimp have trouble communicating and being able to find mates and everybody in the ocean is affected by our noise.
yeah. It's so sad. Another thing too, when my parents have gone to the ocean, my dad sat in shallow water. He put his head underwater. He's like, Gary, come here. I'm like, what is it? Put your head underwater. I put my head underwater. It was like a ferry coming by. Went to Rhode Island near Narragansett Beach. I put my head in the water, and it was so loud of all these noises of boats. And my dad and I were just kind of like grieving a little bit, like how much these animals have to put through our doing of putting boats, motorized boats in here. And like what you said too about the whales and other creatures having to face this, it completely messes up their communication with people. I think I've watched a Life show, or I don't remember which one it was, but they were saying how the motorization of the boats just completely ruins the communication with animals, and then the babies get lost from their mothers or aunts or whoever.
So sad. And we could fix that. You know, I drive a Prius, which is a hybrid, and this car is so quiet that they have to put a beeping thing on it when it backs up because people won't even hear it at all. So it's possible to make even very noisy things quiet. So let's do that. You know, let's be inspired to do that.
I had like ideas of like, what if we made like solar boats or something? I don't know. I was just like making my own ideas. Like, what if instead of motorized boats, we had very quiet boats, but instead of putting gasoline and stuff, we had like huge solar panels on top. I don't know. I was just kind of like making my own ideas.
Oh my gosh, I think that's terrific. And we know, you know, people around the world are smart, but Americans, Yankee ingenuity, you know, we're known for that. We have the power to do that. And I hope that, you know, during this time that we have time to reflect on what kind of world we want to have.
Exactly.
That people's imagination will be fired up and maybe follow up on your idea of making quiet boats that are powered by solar panels. I think that's brilliant.
Awesome. Yeah, just trying to make boats quieter for the ocean. It would be really interesting if they could do that, because like what you said, we are very intelligent people, but like our intelligence sometimes just doesn't appear to be there. But if we just kind of just sat down and just clear our minds, we would probably do a lot of good. But we don't really do that. We're always focused on the big things like work and stuff, but not the small things that help out everything. Like there's this phrase I really like in this movie called Prometheus I watch. It's a horror movie, but this guy David says a really truly amazing thing that just really affected me. He says the big things come from small beginnings, and if we just started with the small beginnings and just added them up, it would be perfect. But we always focus on those big things.
Think of the octopus. They start out the size of a grain of rice, and they grow faster than almost any other animal there is.
Yeah.
You can't believe they started out so little that you could hardly see them.
It's so crazy. All right, so I have some questions for you. So my first one is, before all this crazy COVID stuff happened, when was your last time you went to New England Aquarium?
Oh, it was right before, the day before it closed, actually.
Wow.
Let me see, that was March. I can probably tell you the exact day. But at the aquarium, what had happened was the way COVID-19 really got introduced into Boston was this big meeting at a hotel right across from the aquarium. And the aquarium had urged people to come to a meeting the day after that big giant meeting that brought the disease.
Oh, wow.
But no one knew that the disease was there. Oh, it was very bad. So our people at the aquarium could have been exposed to the virus right then.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was absolutely shocked. The next day, everything closed down. So I was there March 12th.
Wow.
And it closed on Friday the 13th.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty interesting. That happened with my work and stuff. I think it closed March 12th. They said they were going to go on that 2 weeks to quarantine, and then it went on for months after.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Oh my gosh.
But my second question, I think we've kind of talked about this, but I just love hearing about it. What do you find most interesting of an octopus?
Oh gosh, I think it's the tension between their sameness and their otherness.
Mm.
That, I think, is what attracts me the most. The otherness is obvious. You know, we last shared a common ancestor 500 million years ago.
Mhm.
And here, you know, we are vertebrates who walk on the earth, and they are invertebrates that live in the ocean, and they can taste with their skin, and they've got 3 hearts, and so on and so forth. They're so different from us. But I love that the fact that they are so different from us does not prevent them from being friends with us, and that they have
Exactly, yeah.
intelligence so like our own. So it's that tension between the sameness and otherness. And I think that that's an important thing to recognize right now, where different people are having trouble coming together right now because of the political climate. You
Yeah,
know, because you might, I mean, you might have a different opinion on some political issue, and so now you can't be friends with me. Well,
yeah,
no. I mean, if an octopus can be friends with me, I can be friends with you.
exactly,
Goodness,
yeah.
right.
It's like with a dog too. I could be friends with any animal. Like,
That's right.
can
I
I be
mean, I
friends with you?
count animals as some of my best friends. I mean,
Exactly.
I married a human, and many of my friends are, I mean, you're a human too, at least partly. I think you're probably half octopus, but
That'd be
um,
really cool.
it would be really cool. Oh my gosh. But, you know, restricting yourself to friends of just one species is so
Yeah.
limiting, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
I
it
feel
is.
bad for all those people. It's like all they could ever have for dinner is green beans. And, you know, green beans are delicious, and I love green beans, but I don't want to just have green beans. I don't want to just listen to one piece of music. And I don't want to restrict myself to having friends of only one species.
Exactly. Hmm. I completely agree with you there. I think most of my best friend is mostly Sai the octopus, but too bad she wasn't here. But she was definitely like my best friend. But my second best friends are my dogs. I absolutely love them so much. Sometimes they just, for me, like animals just, they understand you better than talking to humans. Like it's a really loving feeling for talking to octopuses and just other animals. It's just
Mhm.
so heartwarming talking to animals, even though they can't speak, but they can speak in a different way. Maybe
Right.
focus on maybe their body language. They just, I can tell from my dogs, looking at their eyes and their body language, they can speak to you, but just not in a language, but in
Right.
your body form.
Yeah. Their senses can
Exactly.
comprehend so much about the world around us that we can't. Like, I couldn't tell you what, you know, what the side of the tank tastes like, for example.
Yeah.
I have like very poor chemoreception, and I don't think I want to be licking the side of the tank, at least not in the COVID-19 epidemic. But, you know, they are aware of things that we miss and don't
Yeah.
experience. Just like dogs, you know, they can hear outside of our range of hearing, they can see in the dark at night. And that's the real world. It's just a part of the real world that we don't really have access to. We know it's real. And so it's no wonder that they can often detect things that we don't know. Dogs are able to even sniff out when a person has cancer. They're
Yeah.
working now on dogs, teaching dogs to be able to smell um, the new coronavirus
Yeah.
on
Exactly.
people who haven't got any symptoms yet, but test positive. So there's a group of 6 dogs now working on this project, and what they're doing is that they're asking health workers who test positive but have no symptoms yet for COVID-19 to wear these little nylon socks around, and then they're teaching these dogs to recognize the smell of it. And that would be
Really.
great. I would so much rather have a dog smell me than stick one of those giant Q-tips down my nose
Exactly.
and my
Yeah.
throat, wouldn't that be? So,
Yeah.
and that would be terrific at like airports and train stations to make sure that, you know, you want to know if you're sick, not just for other people, but for you, so
Yeah.
that you can get
Exactly.
treatment. So, I mean, that's just one example of an animal that many people have right in their homes that have all
Yeah.
these amazing senses. And I think that's what makes them so, that many times other animals can be even more sensitive to humans than humans are, because
Yeah.
they have senses that we don't. And we rely so much on language. And language is great. I'm a writer, so I'm not going to say language is bad, but we can lie with language. We can
You can.
obfuscate with language, and animals who have a different way of communicating, I think, can communicate and perceive different truths than we
Yeah.
can.
Completely agree. That's awesome. And my second question is, uh, besides New England Aquarium, where else have you studied octopus? I think you mentioned this before. I don't remember where you said it, but it was like, I'm probably gonna say this wrong. Was it like Mora or something like that?
Yeah, Moorea. Moorea in French Polynesia. I went with these fabulous octopus researchers led by Dr. Jennifer Mather, who is an octopus psychologist at Lethbridge University, Dr. David Scheel, who was the human star in that wonderful show Contact, in which he had an octopus in his house and his daughter got to know the octopus. Her name is Heidi. Tatiana Leite, who's a Brazilian scientist who discovered new species of octopuses, and Keeley from the Vancouver Aquarium, who just was a fabulous pair of eyes. She was an Aquarius, a wonderful, wonderful person. So all of us at Dr. Mather's invitation went down to Moorea, and I did a second book on octopus called The Octopus Scientist, based on that work. But I also met octopuses in Mexico, which was where I'd first, as a new scuba diver, that was the first place I dived in the ocean.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, it was amazing to see them in the wild as well. Because, you see stuff in captivity, and in captivity, the octopus is right there. This is Octavia or Kali or Karma or Athena. You know who that octopus is.
Mm-hmm.
But in the wild, when you find a wild octopus and you go back the next day and there's another wild octopus there, you don't know if it's the same octopus.
Yeah.
Because it might not look the same, because this one was red and that one is brown, or this one had bumps all over it and that one is smooth. It's really hard to study them in the wild, but it was still thrilling for me to see their behaviors in the wild and see that they were doing the same sort of behaviors that we observed in captivity, so that my observations were, kind of legitimated in that way. And I also saw stuff that didn't happen in captivity. This was really thrilling in Mexico. I saw something. I mean, the thing is, in the wild, you can see something that no one ever saw before, and I've never heard of it. I saw an octopus who seemed to have corralled a whole bunch of crabs, and they eat crabs, but there were a whole bunch of them, and they were all alive, and they were all trying to crawl away, but the octopus was gathering them up. And they weren't crawling away with great enthusiasm. It was, I don't know what the octopus was doing to keep them from completely disappearing, but it looked like the octopus was running a crab farm or something. I don't know.
It's so cool to see. That would be absolutely amazing to see that, seeing their actual behavior in nature. But that's such a cool thing to see, octopuses doing that. Instead of eating their prey, they were holding them like they were sheep, trying not to let them go. That's so cool.
Yeah. I still don't know what was actually going on there, but it was something cool. The problem, of course, is you're on scuba, so you can't stay there forever. You're going to run out of air.
Yeah.
And if you go back the next day, well, the octopus could have moved on, or it could be a different octopus, or there's just so long that you can watch them in the wild underwater. But every moment you have with an octopus, wild or captive, is magic.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm very proud to say that it's so magical to do that with an octopus in captivity, able to be with it. It's so awesome. And let's see, I've got a few questions here. All right, so from all 29, how many books have you made? About 29?
Yeah, it'll be, I've got 2 ones coming out this year, and that'll make it 30 in October.
All right, awesome. So From the 29 books that you have made, which one was the most difficult to make or publish for you?
Oh man. Well, there were different degrees of different kinds of difficulty. I actually do a presentation called When Things Go Horribly Wrong. The first book I did, which was Walking with the Great Apes, which is a tribute to my heroines, Jane Goodall, Diane Fossey, and Bruta Galdikas, who studied chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. On that book, during that book, I got dengue fever, which can kill you. My father died. Jane Goodall stood me up in Tanzania, which is a long way to go. And that was a very difficult thing to do. That was a very hard book. The next book I did was Spell of the Tiger. And the very first day I show up in India, as we landed, my gold filling fell out of my tooth. And I was going to be there for 2 months with no filling in my tooth.
Oh boy.
But my translator, my ostensibly guide, and my scientist companion who was going to help me with his speedboat all fell through.
Oh.
Everything I'd set up fell through. So I ended up going out with my dear friend Diane Taylor Snow, who took wonderful photographs for me, which were all stolen, by the way. All of her luggage on the way back disappeared. So we end up going out to Sundarban, to this huge mangrove swamp where the man-eating tigers live. And then martial law is declared, and we couldn't leave.
Oh boy.
We were stuck out there. I mean, disaster. So, you know, that was kind of difficult as well. Should I continue with no, not every.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No, but a lot of these things go wrong. But you know what? I have found that when things go wrong, you just have to know that there's a silver lining. And you and I were talking about silver linings earlier before we actually started our recording, and how there's even a silver lining to this horrible virus that we're enduring right now. And in every case, when something terrible went wrong, I mean, maybe not my father dying, but like Jane Goodall not being there when I traveled all the way to Gombe Stream Reserve just to see her. The silver lining of that was that I got to see this new baby chimpanzee who was in the line of the Flo family, the most famous chimpanzee of her study. This was one of the descendants of Flo. I got to see this new baby before Jane even saw him. And I also got to experience, without Jane being there to help me, I got to experience a little bit of what she experienced when she showed up all by herself. Well, actually, she was with her mother, but other than her mother, she was alone in Africa, starting this huge project. And I got to feel a little of that, and that was very beneficial for the book. And as far as the tiger book, when everything seemed to go wrong, what happened was, without my scientist friend, who I would have loved to have had, but because he was a high-ranking guy, and the people in Sundarban that lived with the tigers, they were lower caste people. They were poor. They weren't uneducated, though. They knew about our Shakespeare, and they all understood and recited poetry. But they were people that would have been kind of cowed in his presence. They would have been frightened, maybe, to talk to me openly and honestly. And because I spent weeks and weeks in Sundarban with these people alone, trying desperately with my few Bengali phrases and their few English phrases to communicate, when I went back again and again and again, we got to be close friends, and they told me stuff that they had never told any scientist before. And I think because of them, I kind of unlocked the mystery of why these tigers swim out after your boat and get on board and eat you. And why, despite doing this, the local people worship a tiger god instead of persecute the tigers. And so researching that book, Spell of the Tiger, it ended up being totally different from what I had completely envisioned in the beginning, but it was an even better book.
That's so awesome. That is just absolutely magnificent. That's I have no words. That was just awesome. That was an awesome story. The All right, here we go. Out of all the octopuses you have encountered in Soul of the Octopus, which were Athena, Octavia, and Kali, or Kali, how do you spell it? How do you say
Yeah,
your name?
Kali.
Kali.
She's named after an Indian goddess.
Awesome. And which one was your favorite to be with most out of in that book?
Oh my gosh. Well, I loved Kali. She was so youthful and full of life, but she died tragically. She crawled out of her tank.
Oh,
Oh, it was terrible. And it was no one's fault. It was no one's fault. Anyway, that was like so devastating. But I think Octavia's story is the one that is the most moving and that affects readers very deeply, because I got to know her pretty much shortly after she arrived at New England Aquarium till her death. And we had a long time together. Here comes my dog. There's my Thurberman. He's a good boy. She remembered me.
yeah.
Even when she had laid eggs, and she had been on those eggs for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. And as you know, a giant Pacific octopus only lives 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So 9 or 10 months is decades to them.
Exactly.
And when they're on eggs, they're staying in their lair. They're not coming up to the top to interact with you like you and I interacted with Cy the octopus. So she had not looked up through the water at me. She had not taken food from me. She had not tasted my skin in the equivalent of decades. But after she was removed from her exhibit because she was old and she was sick, and they felt it would be most respectful to her to let her be in a quiet, dark place, more like she would be in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if she would recognize me. But when I opened the tank of the barrel that she was in behind the scenes, she came right up to meet me. She looked right into my face. She stretched up her arms to taste me. And I offered her a fish, but she didn't want the fish. She just wanted to be with me again. Me and our friend who you met, Wilson Menashe, old friends that still mattered to this octopus, even after the equivalent of decades apart, even when she was old and sick and near death. She chose to make the effort to come up, look into our faces, and touch us again.
That just right there was just so outstanding. And for people that are watching this, that just tells you how incredible, and I don't have any words, but that just tells you how truly magnificent these animals are for being able to lay eggs. And that's probably the toughest time for the octopus, because giant Pacifics and all octopus, they have to be with their eggs, because if they're not with them, they will get eaten from predators and stuff. But for even though laying the eggs and being in that dark barrel, she's still able to recognize you, and that's just so magnificent, and just it's beautiful how they do that. It just tells you how intelligent these animals are, and how I guess respectful they are. They respect you. No matter what, you can accidentally do something really bad, maybe hurt their feelings, but they will always respect you no matter what. They forgive you, they respect you. It's just so incredible of how they are.
Yeah, her friendship just meant so much to me, and it really changed forever my feeling about all invertebrate animals who are most of life on Earth. I mean, marine invertebrates, that's most of animate life that isn't plants. You know, almost everybody's a marine invertebrate. We're the exception, these vertebrates on land. And I really saw in her how deep your relationship can go with someone even very, very different from yourself.
Yeah, I like that relationship, even though I've only seen Cy the Octopus 2 times. But just being able to really look at Cy the Octopus, and I was talking to her that whole time, and it was just the feelings that you got from talking with her, and the relationship was just, it was so strong. Like, like when you talk to people, it's just like just have a normal conversation. But when you talk to an animal, so like, especially the octopuses, I love octopus, and I felt like Side the Octopus could tell that I have a passion for these animals. It was like almost instant when she touched me with just one suction cup. It was so magnificent, and it's truly incredible how that happened. And like what I said, the bond was just so strong. It was just, I had no words for the bond that we had. It was just so incredible how.
Yeah, and they don't like everybody they meet all the time either. I mean, I've seen octopuses that just touched one person and like, oh my gosh, I got to squirt you in the face with freezing cold salt water instead of I want to explore you. And they know stuff about us through touching and tasting us that we don't even know about each other. So I bet she did know that this was a special person who really respected and loved her from the start and was curious about her. I bet she did know that.
I hope so. It was awesome. And then the second time really just made me say wow, because when I think it was you or Wilson, when if you open up the hood, she was literally right there. It's like she knew my presence was coming, even though I was like maybe 100 feet away. She was right there. I'm like, this is just incredible how she knew that I was coming. And then I put my hand in water. She was like, it was like some of your stories in Soul of an Octopus, how the octopus was just right there. And that's what it was like for me. It was so breathtaking.
Yeah, boy. Well, that was fate. That was definitely destiny.
Yes, it was. All right. I'll give you a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So I have so many good questions here. So here we go. So last night I was looking up some of the books you made, and I saw one that I don't think I've seen before. It's called Inky's Amazing Escape, and I was wondering, could you tell us about what that book is about?
Yeah, Inky was a real octopus who lived in New Zealand, and he'd been brought in by a lobsterman, a prawn fisherman, to the aquarium, and he'd been injured. He had one of his arms missing, and he lived at the aquarium at the Capitol, and was a very popular octopus. Well, one day someone must have left the lid ajar to his exhibit, and they came in, and he was gone. And they followed the slime trail. When he got out, he left a trail, and he went to the drain that emptied into the ocean, and he just went back to the ocean. Well, that's a true story. And as soon as I read, I thought, this is just great. I got a lot of calls about it because of writing Soul of an Octopus. People would call me and say, what do you think is happening? And so I thought this would make a great children's book.
That's awesome.
So it's a picture book for kids, illustrated by my wonderful illustrator, Amy Schimler. Let's see, do I have some for artwork that I can reach? Actually, it's up there, but it's a fun little book. Interestingly, there's another book about Inky for children, and I'm sure that's a fine book as well, but it doesn't depict octopuses the way they really are. It has a smiley mouth that's on the mantle, and this one is actually completely accurate and factual.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
So now I have 3 octopus books. I have one for littles who can read a picture book, one for older kids just about the expedition to Moorea called The Octopus Scientist, and Soul of an Octopus for grown-up readers.
Well, everyone loves that book. It's such an outstanding book, Soul of an Octopus. I've read it about 2 times. My mom read a little bit of it, but she hasn't read much of it. I'm trying to get her to finish it because it's just so. It's a book that really gets to you, and that's what I love about that book. It's so awesome. And I think we've already talked about this. I know I've definitely mentioned this a lot on talking about it, but when you encountered with an octopus, what were your feelings and reactions when being with an octopus? Like maybe an example, like looking at the octopus and eye, like what were your reactions towards that?
Well, at first, when I met Athena, the first octopus I ever met, I was quite surprised to see how obvious her curiosity was. When Scott Dowd opened the tank, she turned bright red with excitement and she slid over to look me in the eye, and I watched her eyes swivel in the socket and focus right on my face. And then her arms came boiling up out of the water, and I asked, can I touch her? And I plunged my hands and arms in there. And then the next thing you know, there's dozens of these questing suckers all over your skin. And I had not expected that enthusiastic a reception at all.
Yeah.
And that's the wonderful thing, though, because people like to say whenever you observe your relationship with an animal, oh, you're just anthropomorphizing, you're just projecting your emotions and feelings onto another animal. Well, I know that wasn't the case because I went in with zero expectations. I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised to see that. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't expect or deserve anything from that animal. And yet, look what she gave me. It was breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. And every time I meet a new animal, I try to go in with that kind of, they call it beginner's mind. You don't know how they're going to react to you. You want to be cognizant that it's possible they're intimidated or threatened by you. You want to tell them that you're harmless. But in this case, I was just bowled over by every single thing that I saw that octopus do. And I continue to feel that way because I continue to visit the octopuses and they still surprise me.
Yeah, they're just so beautiful, just magnificent animals, just so intelligent. There's so much words. I'm sorry, I can't get my words out for these animals. I can talk about animals, say, yeah, they're beautiful and stuff. And when I talk about an octopus, it's like, I don't know what to say because how awesome they are. But it's awesome to hear your story about it. And also, when I encountered Cy the octopus, their suction cups felt like little massages for me. How did they feel for you when suction cups went in your arms?
Well, it was different depending on the octopus and her mood. Sometimes it wasn't painful, but it was very, very strong.
Yeah, it definitely
sometimes
was.
you would be left with bruises, with like hickeys on your arms. And the first time I met Athena, at one point she was clearly trying to pull me into the tank, not in an aggressive way. When I met Octavia, at first she wanted nothing to do with me. She was a wild octopus, and she'd only recently arrived at New England Aquarium. And I kept offering her a fish on a grabber, and then finally she grabbed the grabber, and then she grabbed me. And that felt utterly different than the time Athena was kind of slowly and insistently pulling me into the tank. This time she grabbed me.
It was like more aggressive.
It felt, I don't think it was necessarily an act of aggression, though. I know what you mean about more aggressive. It was definitely more forceful. And I still wasn't fearful. I felt I was under investigation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did wonder if I would be able to tell, the way you can tell with dogs and horses and cows and sheep and, mammals and birds, you can tell when that animal, frequently you can tell if the animal is going to bite you or is going to hurt you or if it's annoyed with you. But would I be able to tell that in a marine invertebrate like an octopus? Well, I was able to tell because I never felt like I was in danger from any of them. And my hands were in the tank when one of the octopuses, Kali, bit someone else.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading part of that in Soul.
Yeah. And what was funny was who she bit, my friend Anna, to whom the book is actually dedicated. It wasn't an aggressive bite, but it was a curious bite. Anna had been on several different medications for the entire time that Kali had known her. And she had just had a complete change in her medicine. And I think that because of their exquisite chemoreceptive sense in their suckers that Kali could probably taste through Anna's skin. The chemical composition of her blood had changed and felt as if like, this is weird. I better check this out. I'm gonna check it out with my beak. It wasn't a bad bite. It was like a parakeet bit you. She didn't envenomate, so it wasn't an angry bite, but it was definitely like, I think I'm gonna like bring my beak into play and just nibble and see what's going on.
Yeah, I was just thinking that when you were saying how she changed her medicine and stuff. As you were saying, I was like brainstorming. That's probably what the octopus was doing, because they're just so like far more advanced than us, and they're like dogs. They have different senses where they can sense if we have like cancer or something. So like what you said, they probably she just thought that maybe she's just scented something that we can't scent in our bodies, and had to take a little investigation on why this is happening.
Mm-hmm. Because had she been aggressive, she would have envenomated, I would think.
Exactly.
And she liked Anna a lot. I think she liked Anna, and that's why she was so curious. Like, what's changed with my friend?
She probably just wants to try and help.
Hey, should I put my dog on with your dog? Can you hear Thurber barking in the background?
I can, but that's all right. My dog, probably Cooper, he's been jumping on my door because he wants to get in. My mom closed my door, but he's just been jumping on my door. I don't know if you've been hearing that, but
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's him. But one last question, or we could go for a little bit more time. We could go for a few more. But I know, besides an octopus, what other animals in your books you have really connected with? Because I know that you have been with a whole bunch of animals, like cheetahs, like what you mentioned before, tigers, and a whole bunch of other animals. Which one was, besides an octopus, did you really connect to?
Well, after Soul of an Octopus, I wrote a book called How to Be a Good Creature. And that book profiles 13 individual animals who changed my life. Octavia is one of them. And from starting with my first dog, Molly, a Scottish Terrier I got when I was 3, up through tree kangaroos who I met in Papua New Guinea, and Ermine, who killed one of my hens on Christmas Day, a tarantula named Clarabelle, and our dog Thurber, who you're hearing from. I write about the animals that taught me life lessons about the kinds of things that we all face, how to find your destiny, and how to deal with sorrow and loss, and how to find forgiveness. Mm-hmm. These are the animals that, through their example or through their relationship with me, changed my life. So those are just, 13 individuals. But they all mean a great deal to me. I think the animals, other than those living in our house, Christopher Hogwood, our pig who we had for 14 years, adopted him as a little baby. He hugely changed my life, and he was just a great soul. He was like a big Buddha master. But other than the animals that were living in my house, wild animals, I would say among those that meant the most to me were the 3 emus that I studied in Australia. I lived in a tent in Australia for 6 months in the 80s and spent every day walking around with these 3 flightless wild birds who showed me their world.
That's so awesome.
It was really great.
That is so amazing. That was an awesome story. What was that book that you said before that was it your book or a book that you read with all the animals that you have really connected to? What was it called?
Oh yeah, that's called How to Be a Good Creature.
Okay, I got to read that.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. From what you just said, I'm just like, after this, I'll want to go buy it. That sounds so awesome. I think I basically went over all my questions.
Well, they were such good questions.
Thank you.
Well, it was a joy talking with you. This hour just flew by.
I know it did. I wish it went slower, but time's crazy.
Oh man, yeah. I'm now working on a couple of books on turtles, as I've probably mentioned to you, and I've got to get back to the turtle hospital on the phone in about 5 minutes. So
Okay.
this was perfect timing. I love seeing you.
Thank you.
And
You
let me
too.
know when it runs, okay?
Yeah.
So that I can alert the troops.
Thank you.
I've already told folks about your YouTube channel, but it gives me another opportunity to remind them to tune in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sai. That helps out so much. I'm very grateful that you have done that. For me, that's
I'm
just
so
so
proud
awesome.
of you. God,
Thank
you're
you.
just the best.
Thank you.
And let me know what's going on with the book, of course. And
Oh, of course.
okay, great. Well, stay in touch, Octoman.
Oh, of course. All right. Have an awesome day, Sai.
Okay, bye, BFF.
Bye, BFF. Have an awesome day.
You too.